Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grunwald.
This week, my guest is J.D. Wilson, founder of Lead You. J.D. shares so many lessons learned throughout his journey. He talks about an experience he had as a counselor in a summer camp for a leadership program while he was in college. He remembers the drive home after leaving the camp and how he really understood the meaning of pure joy from working with the kids in the program. His journey led him next to go into the Air Force for 4 years. He shares how while in Iraq, he was the host of multiple talent shows. It seems that wherever he goes, there is a stage calling his name. JD felt that the best stage for him was the classroom and wanted to reconnect with the joy that he received from being with the kids several years before, so he became an elementary school teacher. In 2016, JD decided it was time to step back from the classroom. That was literally 1 year and 1 day before he would receive tenure. Instead, he had a calling to teach in a different way and knew that if he didn't listen to where his path was leading him, he may have regrets. He shares about the whale, the leaf blower, and the dream. Lead You focuses on creating personalized, meaningful empowerment experiences for learners of all ages. JD and the Lead You crew create an atmosphere where you feel safe to be silly. That is why, from the classroom to the boardroom, Lead You shares meaningful content through experiential and fun learning techniques. From empathy to teamwork and beyond, they are sharing impactful lessons that last way past these incredibly energetic presentations. To learn more about Lead You, go to leadyouThere.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel, stream this podcast on all streaming sites, comment, like, and share, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. The views expressed by all Today's the Day Changemakers podcast guests are their own. Their appearance on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast does not imply any endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast. I am Jody Grunwald, and as I say every single week, I get to interview the most incredible humans who are making a difference in their corner of the world and beyond. And today I have J.D. Wilson with me. How are you, J.D.?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely.
Read your bio real quick, and then we're going to get started and learn more about you and all the incredible work you're doing.
Awesome.
All right, good. J.D. Wilson, founder of Lead You, served overseas in the United States Air Force from 2006 to 2010. After 4 years of military service, he became an elementary school teacher in New Jersey. In 2016, JD decided to step back from the classroom and build Lead You, a company that focuses on creating personalized empowerment experiences for learners of all ages. Collaborating with aspiring current and former educators, Lead You has evolved from a grassroots summer leadership camp to a well-established name in empowerment and education. And JD, we're going to learn a lot more because I know Lead You has evolved over time, and there's so much I'm sure that you could share. And I just want to say one last thing. I've been a part of one of your programs, and I walked away from there feeling so empowered, so positive and energized. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's learn a little bit more about you and your background. Yeah. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up in Toms River for the most part, along the Jersey Shore for sure. I bounced around a little bit, but Toms River, New Jersey for the most part.
Okay, I didn't realize we had that. I didn't grow up there, but I lived there for 20 years, so I didn't realize that we had that.
I didn't know you were in Toms River. We should have talked about that.
I know, right? Like, see, I told you we're going to learn a lot about each other here. And you recently lived somewhere really exciting, more exciting to me than even Toms River.
Yeah, definitely somewhere warmer this time of year. Yeah, I lived in Hawaii, on Oahu, in a town called Kailua. I lived there for about a little over a year.
That sounds incredible. What would you say is your favorite thing about living there? Besides the weather, you can't say the weather because we know.
Yeah, my favorite thing, really, there's two things that stuck out to me. One is I really grew to love how everything revolves around the ocean, and where the waves are or what's happening, and like your life kind of starts revolving around the ocean and nature a lot more, for me, at least personally. So I really felt like it was a great opportunity for me to kind of dive into that and literally you're up earlier, you're in bed earlier, and you're outside all the time, which I missed, and I feel like I lost somewhere along the way. So there's that, and the aloha spirit, and my experience with that was so real. The people and the pace out there, it was very genuine, and I was in a fortunate situation where I got to work with and be friends with like some truly genuinely awesome humans. So that the people and the pace out there, I think, were the two things.
What drew you out there? Was there something that drew you into that space?
Sure. Yeah. So when so we were running Lead Year for about 5 years there, and then when COVID hit, quite frankly, getting people in a room together was no longer a thing, obviously. So assemblies, workshops, whatever it was, and we were fully booked the whole rest of the year, and it just all went away like that. So like so many of us, we had to be flexible and adapt, and we looked into doing the virtual thing and trying to make that work. But for me personally, I looked at it as an opportunity to maybe take a break from what I was doing with Lead You and to kind of get back to teaching. And with all due respect to New Jersey, I was like, I need a new change of scenery. And I know Hawaii was looking for teachers. And I just started making phone calls. And like the third call I made, this saint of a woman named Betty, who I hope she sees this, answered the phone, and she was the secretary at a school called St. Anthony's. And she put me on with the principal immediately, and they were like, can you come out here now? And I was like, okay. So it was, I just kind of followed the energy, and it paid off in the long run. So it took a year, and it was awesome. Yeah.
What you see now, COVID has had a lot of terrible things happen. We know that, but if COVID didn't happen, do you think that journey would have happened for you?
No way.
Yeah.
I would have continued at the same pace. And I'm sure you and your listeners can tell my voice is not always this hoarse. It's literally because, right now we're very fortunate to be back out there doing our thing. I just left the school about a half hour ago. So the pace and everything that was happening out here, I would have continued on that journey, which would have been great. But I think I needed the break physically and mentally. And I got it in the best way possible. So you're right. It's so weird. It's like so many negatives, obviously, and a lot of loss with COVID, but so many positives that can be pulled from it if you sit back and look at it.
Right. This podcast wouldn't have happened. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
you're telling me that. Yeah, exactly. Right.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of unfortunate things, but yeah, I mean, I can tell that was something you needed just by what you shared, and I'm like thinking to myself, it's so important to listen to that energy when something comes up that is pulling you in a certain direction. Not everybody listens, but you did, which was kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah. And it paid off. It paid off for sure.
So let's go back a little bit. We talked
Sure.
a little, you grew up in Toms River. What kind of child were you? Because you have a lot of energy. I've seen you up there performing in front of everybody. I was tired after you the whole Lead You piece, and we'll explain what that is in a little bit. But where do you get your energy from?
I would have to say, from my family, my parents, they always had me involved, whether that was with sports. My mom, she passed 2 years ago, but if she was on the podcast right now, she would tell you that I was literally the best soccer player that's ever lived, or football or basketball. And they were always very supportive and always involving me in different programs and sports. And really, once I hit high school is kind of when, for me, I started realizing I just liked being involved in front of people and making people laugh, or just trying to bring people together. And student leadership was a route to that for me. So I guess it all kind of came from just always being involved in different things, and not just one thing, just always being involved in a lot of other things. I always say I'm like really decent at like a lot of things, but like I haven't really mastered anything yet.
No, I know there's that saying, right? What is it? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes. Yeah. 1,000%.
But I think that we sell ourselves short sometimes, because we may not think we are. But when I look at you getting up there doing the work that you're doing, I totally think you've mastered it. You know what I'm saying? So I think we don't know how we're viewed. It's a lot of, I tell you, if I had a going theme here for almost everybody who's doing incredible work, it's imposter syndrome. No matter who they are, I've gotten a lot of people sharing about I'm not that, I don't want them to find me out. And I'm like,
Right.
none of you, all of you found out. You're doing incredible work.
I love that.
So you were never the shy kid then?
No, I was definitely never the shy kid. No, I always just like being up in front of everybody and doing my thing. I think a lot of it came from, it's different. Like, so even in high school, even I am 6'6", if I stand up straight, and that height and all of that didn't really come till later in life. So even going through high school, I was like pretty short, chubby kid. And I guess I had to, involve myself in other things other than sports at that point. So I think that really helped in kind of getting myself out there and realizing I had to use my voice at times and use my social skills to fit in, and also to kind of curate experiences for everybody else and make others feel welcomed to whatever we were doing.
Did you ever do anything in the arts, acting or anything like that? I'm just kidding.
Never. Yeah, I was, the closest thing I ever did to it, I guess, would be, I used to make movies when I was growing up with like my friends. Before you had phones and everything, like we were lugging around our parents' huge camcorders, and like the editing process was crazy. But as a creative outlet, we used to try to make movies, and we made some really good ones. But I think that was a great creative outlet for me. But as far as the stage and things like that, I wasn't really involved in that. I didn't really realize that till later on in life that I wanted to be. Yeah.
Is there a defining moment in your childhood for you that you can think of?
Defining moments.
That kind of led you to where you are today.
That's a good question. So I'm glad I didn't read the questions.
I'm so glad.
So I think a lot of it does stem back to I think it comes back to the feeling that I get. We used to run these summer camps. Before Lead You, there was another company that existed that I was part of, and I co-owned eventually, and we called it a company, but really we did like one real camp a year, and we did it at Villanova. Where I'm going with this is that was my time. It was kind of my college years before the military and all that. And that's when I was on stage, and as a counselor at these camps, I really started feeling like, wow, I love what I'm doing. And then I noticed that it was a 3-day camp, but the drive home from that camp, always, every time, and I did the camp for about 2-3 years there, that drive home, I always had this feeling of like, it's going to sound like a Hallmark card, but like joy. Like it was pure joy. Like that is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like making those kids feel good, and like making them connect with each other and allowing that process to happen, making them laugh. That's where I'm supposed to be. And I was like, that only happened 3 days out of the year. And I remember every time that drive home being like, I'd tear up a little bit, or I would just be like, I can't wait for next year. How do we keep this thing going? And then eventually, I figured that out, how to keep that feeling happening, because that's the feeling, even right now. And I'm not just saying this, like we just left the school here in Jersey in Fairhaven, and the drive home, I'm a little more exhausted physically as I get older. However, emotionally, I'm like, I have that feeling of like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's where I'm supposed to be. So those drives home, I think those were the moments for me that I was like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
So how old were you when you were driving home after the 3 days that first time?
I was college, so I guess I was just about 17, 18, yeah, when I started doing those camps. Yeah.
That's really impressive to pay attention to that and say that's joy. That's incredible.
Yeah. And what's weird is like you identify that moment. Like I remember identifying that feeling, but like then like life happens and you just start getting into a routine. And I go back to college, and you just get into this rhythm where you start to forget about that feeling a little bit. And that's, I'm very fortunate where I kind of, you have time to reflect and look back and say, oh wait, that was happy for me. That was like the feeling I need. So it is it's weird though. You can realize it. It's like anybody with a dream, any musicians or artists, whatever it might be. you get that feeling off stage, whatever it might be, but then you start realizing as you go through the day, you forget about that feeling sometimes. So you always have to remind yourself of that feeling, I think, no matter what you're doing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it's so funny you're saying this because I thought about something the other day, and that was, why is it we're always looking forward to vacation, right? Vacation, the shortest amount of time that we can give ourselves, a year or 5 years later, right? And that's the only time we look forward to and think about and long for. How come we can't make every day with that same joy and that same connection, right? So I was thinking about that the other day, is those 5 days or 10 days that you go away, you look so forward to, and then when you come back, you feel horrible, that plane ride home, right?
Right.
Or
Exactly.
Sunday nights at 3:00 in the afternoon, or Sunday afternoons, right when Monday is going to come. That is not the way as a society we should be focused on those days of joy. And they should be daily.
And you bring up a really good point. It's almost like we all should just take mini vacations throughout the day, like little adventures throughout the day. It doesn't have to even be a physical vacation, whatever it might be. If you're meditating, like I consider yoga a vacation. Like that hour I get is a vacation now in my life. Or, so if you could take those little mini vacations throughout your day, it really makes you look forward to the next day. And you're not just looking forward to, can't wait for Disney, in 7 months or whatever. And then there's all this pressure, like you got to go and have fun. And it's like, all these things. Where,
right.
I don't want to get sued by Disney. Nothing wrong with Disney. If you
and that we love Disney. We love totally.
We love Disney, actually. Disney. But but I would say, no, you bring up a really good point. So if you could find a way to train your mind to take little vacations throughout the day, I think you'd find more joy, throughout your weeks and months. Yeah.
Or like you just were saying, you left the school and you're in that place of joy during the day. It may be overwhelming. You may be tired. Your voice may be hoarse, and you have to be careful. Even though you're in your joy, I'm in my joy every day, but I still can get burnt out because I'm always serving.
Yes.
And that fills my cup. But when you're always serving, sometimes you don't leave enough for yourself. And so that's what's important.
You're so right. I agree.
So you wound up going to college. When did the Air Force come in?
So I did college for 5 years. I got a history degree, which is more like a hobby than a degree at the time. I don't know. I did a good job socializing in college, and but I did make meaningful connections that actually paid off down the line for Lead U. So I always say my time in college was well spent. However, I did realize after that 5-year stint that I needed a new challenge and an adventure, and maybe a little bit of a kick even in the behind a little bit. So it was right after college, I guess. I don't know how old I was at this point, but I guess 22, 23. And I joined the Air Force. Did 4 years in the Air Force, and I was security forces. I was like a Humvee gunner when I was deployed, and I was like a gate guard guy when I was here stateside.
Where were you deployed to?
Oh boy. My first deployment, Iraq, I guess that was like 6-8 months. Second deployment, I bounced around a lot between like UAE and we stopped in Dubai, and like we did a lot more bouncing around for the second one. But yeah, first one Iraq, second one kind of all over, but the Middle East back then, which was obviously a hot spot.
It was. So you had to have seen and heard and been a part of things that must have been tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's finding the positive in it, which I know can get like it's a bit much. It's like war is war, but I was fortunate with what my position was and where I was to like have moments of finding the joy, even in those, whether it was the camaraderie with the people I was deployed with. I say it all the time, like in Iraq, I like hosted a talent show.
There you go. There's the acting or what else you were doing. You were the host.
They're like constantly hosting and trying to, and I even knew at that time. And the military for me, it's, they say hurry up and wait. There's a lot of waiting around. Specifically with my job, there was a lot of downtime. And I had a lot of time to think about, all right, what do what was my joy? And I used to reflect back to those car rides and those drives home and be like, yeah, that was my joy. So how do I get back to that when my service is done here? Luckily, yeah, again, I kind of figured it out.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your service, because the 4 years that you gave to the U.S. and it's very much appreciated by many.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
So you came back. Tell us a little bit about you came back and how did you start spreading your joy and doing all the wonderful things that you're doing?
Like everybody would, as a marketing engineer for a trucking company. I mean,
sure.
Right?
Yeah,
isn't
sure.
Isn't that the path? Isn't that? So basically, yeah, you won't find this part in my bio, but I had a stint for right after the military. I moved to Point Pleasant Beach, and I needed a job. I needed money, and my dad worked for a trucking company, and I didn't know anything about marketing or trucks, but my dad said, it's a job, take it. And the very quick thing I'll say is, in my time with this trucking outfit, they used to have these like monthly kind of and quarterly like gatherings. And I used to have to present, again, back to presenting. Yeah, it's like, so I went from like talent shows in Iraq to marketing meetings in the middle of like Central Jersey. And I'm in this spot where I knew I had to kind of engage the room, and I knew nothing about what I was talking about most of the time. However, I knew I could at least generate an energy in the room where they were listening to me, and then I could hopefully get some sort of positive like feedback, like to get this marketing thing happening at the company and put people in place. So my dad would go to these and he would see me present, and I'd have people hopefully laughing and moving around. I'd design different activities. And, again, I try to find my way of like, all right, I have an audience. What can I do to make this a memorable 20-minute experience for them to talk about trucks and marketing? And I got to do it. My dad always brings it up, that he was like, he's like, that's when I knew you're supposed to be doing something like that. So while I was working there, I started applying to schools, thinking a classroom is a pretty amazing stage. And I got very fortunate, and I got a job in Howell, New Jersey at Ramtown, go Rams.
Yeah.
From there, I just started teaching 5th grade and bounced around in Howell for a little bit as a teacher, where, found my stage.
So how old did you say the kids were? Were they around your 5th grade, so 10?
5th grade, yes. I taught 5th and 4th grade.
So what did they teach you?
The kids humbled me quickly, which I need probably a daily dose of, but they really had a way of humbling me and making me realize that really have to stay on your toes. And there's a big difference between a 20-minute marketing meeting or even a 3-day leadership summer camp or a one-off talent show in Iraq. There's a really big difference between those quick experiences and a full school year. So what I learned in the classroom was really developing and establishing relationships with those students in the classroom and helping them academically and making sure that they knew throughout the year that I was there for them. I give teachers so much credit because even like what we did today at our assembly, we go in, we're there for the day. It's kind of the flavor of the day. It's a lot of fun. It's wow. They're with us, but those teachers are there every single day. So my students humbled me. They taught me consistency and the importance of developing those relationships throughout a year. And the longevity of that is a lot to do with the ups and downs. So really a humbling experience to teach for sure.
Yeah, and you get to see them grow from the beginning of the year to the end. It's such a gift on that other side of it too, right? To see the growth of they look different. They even look different.
That's what I miss the most, 1,000%. And that's what I loved when I was teaching out in Hawaii, seeing that growth. I did miss that, like those small wins throughout the year that you get with the students and really starting to understand them and seeing them be successful by the end. I miss that 1,000%. It's a part of, it's the give and take of doing what I do now versus teaching.
So what made you start Lead You? Because like you said, and we're getting little glimpses of it and we'll now talk about it, but it's more of a full day or a few days. And then then you're gone. So what made you start something like this? It's such a great program.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Really do. So for me, it was, I guess I was at a point with teaching where, I mean, I was sitting in school assemblies. I was watching other programs, and some of them were really good programs, saying, I want to do what they're doing. And I also thought of, well, I was doing something like that when I was doing my leadership camp. So how can I take, that feeling that I had and the energy that was created there and, bring that to schools through that vessel of assemblies to start. And I just kind of had a moment where I said, if I don't do it now, I was a year and a day away from tenure. If I don't do it now, I'm going to stay as a teacher, which I will be perfectly happy with. But I'll always wonder if it would have worked. So, I want to make a difference. I want to teach kids some of those bigger life lessons. And you can do that as a teacher, but there's so much more on your plate. And I wasn't a great math teacher. Actually, my parents, my kids will probably will tell you. And there was things that I just started showing up for me where I said, if I don't do it right now, if I don't take that jump and that leap, then I'll never do it. I'll continue doing this, which it's great and fine, but I needed to try. So I respectfully resigned and let everybody know. And luckily, the district and the school specifically that I left, they were just super supportive from day one. Like, you got to go do it. Like, good luck, and they supported me.
That's great. So tell everybody what Lead You is and does.
Yes. All right. So Lead You customizes and curates meaningful empowerment experiences for learners of all ages. So whether you're in pre-K, kindergarten, high school, if you're a middle schooler, if you're an adult, and you're a teacher, small businesses, whatever it might be, you say, we want to bring people together, and we put together a game plan for you. And then we bring our whole crew with us. So you don't have to listen to me talk the whole time. We have a bunch of leadership facilitators that come with us and make a very meaningful, high energy, fun experience. Again, for students of all ages and learners of all ages. And again, I think the reason that it works is that customization part. So there's no script. Maybe sometimes there should be, but there's no script at all. It's just the straight up kind of curated experience for your school, for your organization, whatever it might be. And I think that's what really helps it is if your school or organization has a theme or things that you want us to touch on, we learn that and then we bring that to the students. So it feels like it's all part of what you're already doing at your organization. If that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah.
I got to experience it firsthand because the Grunin Foundation held a Lead You fun event for us. It was part of another meeting, and it is what started us off. I can't remember. I think we were doing something with tinfoil. I'm almost positive.
That's the thing, and that's kind of the fun part. And I remember the Grunin Foundation introduced us, and I love this because it always stuck with me. I don't know if it was Jeremy or who it was, but they introduced us. They said, Lead You's here, which means they're bringing the fun. And I always, that was the first time I ever heard it out loud. And I was like, I love that people are associating, what we do with, it's fun. So it's not just, lecturing or anything like that. It's a lot of fun. And there is content that is behind it that we're really lucky to be bringing with the fun. I forgot that you were there for that one. That was a good time.
It was a good time. And I think what's so important is the way I saw it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is that it was really also in that exercise, it was about bringing us at the table together, right? Yes. So we didn't know each other. So we did something on our own, and then we did something together as the group at the table. And I think that there's just so much to be said for letting go of our armor, which is our titles,
yes, and
being authentic. And that's how the best business is done without that title and that armor, because you're wearing a dress-up suit. Yep. and you feel like that's who you are, but then you're somebody else when you throw your jeans on. So that's that's what this does. I feel like your program, it kind of diffuses that situation. Does that make sense?
At that 1,000%, absolutely. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, so you're right, because people show up with an expectation in that business suit. Here's my business card. This is what I do. It's like you always ask each other, what do you do? And that's great. That's networking, of course. However, there is a lost art of silliness, that meaningful silliness that can happen, or it needs to happen with adults, especially. And we take pride in being able to set the table or create an atmosphere, whether it's at your individual table, if it's at a room, if it's at a school, trying to create an atmosphere that is safe and silly. So you feel safe to be silly with the person next to you, because that's when the real meaningful conversations will follow. When you strip that armor that you speak of. And and I don't know. I just feel very lucky to have this job. That's of a mission to create that feeling. And then let people go with it.
Sorry. Yeah, no, you created your reality, which is something that is really impressive for those who do that.
Pam 10 is a leader in IT enterprise solutions and staffing. They are driven to transform their clients' business performances. They do this every day by providing their clients with the best services and products. Products like BizLego, an online community platform, and Colear, a unique learning management system. They also transform the lives of women and children through their associated nonprofits, SheTech, which supports women in and joining the technology field, and Softkin, support organization for kids in need. Pam 10, technology for social good. Go to pam10.com for more information.
I always ask this question because I think it's important for those in the audience to hear the answer. So there's somebody out there that's thinking, oh, that sounds great, JD. I have this great idea and I really want to be able to do it, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like not your idea, but they want to take their idea and they don't know where to start. What would you tell somebody? Very, very, not being specific because we don't know what the idea is, but where do they begin?
I always, and it's definitely not my quote, but I always say that you need to write it down to make it real. You need to write it down to make it real. If you're talking about it, it's just something you said and it flies away. If you write it down, you make a schedule or you put it on your schedule, then it becomes a reality. Oh, now there's a meeting for this. So when I get an idea or something, let's set a meeting for it. Let's write that down. So now it is actually something that's happening. If we're going to start a coffee mug company and I have this awesome idea for a coffee mug, we can talk about it for years and say, and I would do this. I would do that. No, if you write it down, you put it on your calendar, then instead of becoming something you talk about, it's something that's happening. So I think that's a small yet really big step in making an idea become a reality.
Great suggestion. I agree with that about writing it down. And I actually have Post-it notes right here because I things that I write down that I want to accomplish, right? That's right. They're in front of me, and I'm not about tasks. I'm talking about other things. And I move the Post-it notes around too, by the way, so I don't, get used to seeing them in one spot. And that's what somebody gave me that advice.
It's such good advice. It's like, those affirmations and all, it's real. It's real work. And it'll get you to slowly get to where you need to be. Patience too is another thing I would say. It's when we first started Lead You. I don't know if I've ever said this officially on anything that's recorded, but our first assembly was horrible. Like, I will be honest with you, I didn't know what I was doing. I brought like 9 of my friends with me. Luckily, the goodwill of the school, they wanted to believe in me. We showed up. I had this idea we showed up with a leaf blower and like an iPod. that was it. And a dream, a leaf blower, an iPod, and a dream. And I'll tell you, Jared, it didn't go near, like, we didn't know what we were doing, but we tried it. Afterwards, instead of getting discouraged, be resilient, we always say, we met and said, why didn't that work? Well, first off, don't bring a leaf blower to a school. Second off, we don't know our audience well enough. All right, well, let's talk about our audience. And the point being, you have to be okay to fail, and and not get too down on yourself. And that was not a good drive home for me. I remember being like, what did I do? And you slowly start to realize, figure it out, but you have to be okay to fail, because, the first version of whatever you do isn't always the best version. You have to keep at it. And so, yeah, that's a lot. I'm throwing a lot of advice out there, but it's just being honest. It didn't go well.
But people need to hear that, because everything always looks so peachy keen, to everybody. They're like, oh, that's why it's not me, because I can't make it perfect.
Yeah, you're right. And I always think, and I think social media has a lot to do with it. If you're scrolling on it, whatever, I always think everybody around me has it figured out. And personally too, not just with business. I always think, oh, they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. But the truth is, when you strip that armor away and you start really talking to people, no, everyone is always in the process of learning and figuring it out and being in the process. So as long as you keep riding that wave and you stay on that, you will eventually succeed. But you can't always get down that. I tried, it didn't work, and then walk away. So yeah, we bombed.
And you know what I always say when somebody says fail, because I learned this from Brene Brown. So
Okay.
with her a lot sometimes, and you don't fail, you fall. And as a child, when you fall, you get back up, right? As long as your parent doesn't go, then you don't even cry. You just get back up, right? So
Right.
same thing when things like that happen, it's just a fall, and you get back up and you change it.
I love that. I'm gonna steal that. That's a really good one though. You don't fail, you fall. I love
You don't
that.
fail, you fall. Yeah. I wish I could say I coined it, but I didn't. But did, but I've definitely borrowed it for sure. So now if I'm a teacher, if I'm a school administrator listening to this podcast, what would you tell them you could do to help their school with one of your programs, just so they have a clear understanding of how they can get involved and get you involved?
Sure. The first thing would be, we would just, once I get in the room with the administrator, whether it's on Zoom, whatever it might be, our team gets in the room and we hear what challenges you have in your school with what grade levels, whatever it might be, themes and topics. We collaborate together. You tell us what you need. And then we get together and we put together an outline. Essentially, we call them empowerment programs, or EPs, because we think it sounds cool, like a record. And we send that EP to you. And again, it'll show the activities we're doing and the teaching points behind them. And I think the first step is just reaching out to us, and then we curate and customize and come up with that program for you.
That's great. Now, can you share one fun thing that you've done with the kids, even today, and whenever you're...
We do today. Today we did this. Today we had younger students with us, so we did a whole activity on empathy, and we talked about feelings and understanding that your friends might have different feelings in you, and that's okay. So we played a game called Dance to the DJ, where the kids, it's so cute, especially the littles. They're dancing to songs that have different themes. So they dance to a happy song, sad song, a mad song. We throw on some like old school Metallica, and then an excited song. We go through different feelings, and they dance. And the game part of it is that the DJ pauses and they have to freeze in that moment. The content side of it is we really get to talk about what do you do when you feel sad or mad? And we go through different breathing techniques. We do 5-finger breathing with them. We do different nostril breathing. We do the deep breaths, counting backwards, forwards, whatever it might be. And what's great about it is that we're sneaking in different actual strategies that the students can use if they feel mad, they feel sad. I also think it's important for them to see adults acknowledge the fact that, and be vulnerable with, hey, I feel sad sometimes. Sometimes my eyes water up and I cry. And when I feel that way, this is what I do. So it's a very high-paced game, but then we really do a really good job of sneaking that content in there and giving them useful strategies to take into the classroom.
I think you should use that in businesses too. Let's turn on the music in the middle of a boardroom and start getting the board to start dancing to different feelings. And it's not used enough in the business world. It's not.
You're absolutely right. And we always say how funny it is how we have all these activities planned. Sometimes we don't say this, but we use some of the activities that you would use for an elementary school kid, we use for adults, and those activities work just the same because adults need to be reminded of that silliness. And then we can really dive into deeper topics with the adults after you go through those different kind of activities, if that makes a little bit of sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we somehow we get brainwashed by the time, right? We hit that adulthood and it's like a brainwashing. And when you get into adulthood and we lose that innocence of all the magic that we thought existed outside. So that fun and that silliness goes away. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Business.
That imagination too. Right? I made a short film once about like an adult who was putting up like wanted or missing signs all over town because he lost his imagination. He was looking for this. He was looking for where his imagination went as an adult, and it was like, the point of it is like sometimes it happens to me, but luckily I'm in a business where I'm reminded of it, but you lose that. And it's really, you have to do what you can to go out in the world and the universe and find that imagination, find that creativity, find that silliness within you, because it's not gone forever. It's just sometimes you lose it along the journey. It's okay.
Where's that movie, JD? I really need to get it out there.
Yeah, I got a couple of those. I'll send your way for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like it should be making it to some big movie house. It's important. Yeah. It's important. So now I'll lead you in SPTS. Can you explain, and Association for the Prevention of Teen Suicide is SPTS. I'm using the acronym here.
Absolutely. So when I was in Hawaii, my plan was actually to stay out there and keep teaching. And we got a phone call from SPTS, from Dawn and Susan and the board out there. And they had seen, so Society for Prevention of Teen Suicide does tremendous work in the community for teens, adults, for anybody struggling with suicide or any sort of suicide prevention. An amazing job. And they were interested before COVID, before everything, about what Lead U was doing with the younger grades, especially. They started noticing that some of the data was supporting the fact that they need this level of content in the younger grades. They need to bring up suicide awareness in the younger grades, but you don't go in and bring up the word suicide to younger kids, obviously. So you want to make sure it's safe practices. So anyway, long story short, they came and saw us and we did our thing. This is going back like 3 years ago. We just thought they wanted to see what we did. And they just wanted to connect with us, and we didn't really think too much past that. Luckily, when I was in Hawaii, we got the phone call and they were interested in a partnership or working out something where they could, utilize Lead U's programming, especially at the younger levels, to empower kids and keep doing what we're doing to make them feel confident and strong and believe in themselves, because they know that was safe practices for students at that age. So we got this phone call and, my instinct was, no, Lead U is, it's our baby, it's our thing. We'll eventually get back to it. And then the more you start realizing it, it's like practice what you preach. We always talk about connecting with others, and they're like beyond like-minded. We are so like-minded, SPTS and Lead U, and what we do and our missions. It's just the approach is different at times. So if there was a way for us to learn more about their mission and for us to take the energy of Lead U and combine it with all the experience and the clinical experience and advice that SPTS has and really merge it and put it into our programming, then this thing could really take off and the connections will just grow from there. And at the end of the day, all that really matters is that we're getting these messages out there and helping learners of all ages, right? So it's like, this could be an amazing thing. And so we made it work, and SPTS acquired Lead U, and now we all work, we're all down in Freehold, we're all at the same office, and they're helping us grow our mission, and we are slowly combining the two missions and doing this thing. It is such a blessing, and I know people say that all the time, #blessed and things like that, but I feel so lucky to be with them and doing what we're doing, and just excited about where it's headed.
And look at that incredible validation. You started an organization that somebody wanted to take under their their helm, that's how good it was. Like somebody else wanted that name associated with them. I feel like that's such a compliment.
You're right. And I'm not that good at like recognizing that. I think it was even Kelly Colson who really founded Lead You with me way back in the day. And she's always been teaching. She was a teacher, Kelly, in Hazlitt. But she would always help out with Lead You and she was 1,000% a part of it when she could be, when teaching wasn't taken away from her. This was an opportunity for us to bring Kelly on and make that full time and make her dream and realization finally on. And the reason I bring her up is, first of all, she needs to be shouted out. Secondly, she was the one who brought that to my attention. Like, how cool is it that, this thing with the whale that started with a leaf blower and a dream back in the day, like it's grown to a point where people see the value in it. And like, let's take a moment and recognize that. So just Kelly and my good friend Justin they were the ones to say, how awesome is this? And now let's explore the opportunity. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm very grateful. Yeah.
So what's the whale? Tell everybody. You brought it up. I had
Oh man, so here's the whale here. I always say I wish I had a better story for this. However, when I first left teaching, I brought up my buddy Justin, and Justin is a advisor for Lead You, and he's hopefully going to be more a part of our mission as we grow. But he was one of my friends, my connections in college. So the 5 years in college were worth it because when I left teaching, he was the one who suggested, let's go away. We went on a trip with our girlfriends at the time to like Portland and Big Sur. Eventually we did the whole drive down California. Long story short, I was at the point where I already left teaching. I didn't know what I was going to do exactly, but I knew I wanted to start my own thing. And we decided, kind of like Batman, that we needed a symbol. Whatever name we came up with is, a name's a name. What's in a name? But the symbol means a lot. And at that moment, we were watching whales preaching. And I've had a thing for whales my whole life. I just think they're these beautiful, peaceful, smart creatures that are among us. Like, why aren't we talking about whales every day? Like, why isn't that at least once a week? That should be a headline. Like, look at this thing, beautiful creature that's out in the water swimming. It's like, I just found whales to be so impressive. They're dinosaurs living among us. Anyway, clearly I have appreciation for whales. And when I was talking to Justin, we're literally watching these whales preach, and I was like, that's it. It's a whale. The whales, I love whales. They're these beautiful creatures, and I want to make sure that that's part of it. And it's eye-catching, and and it's, again, maybe not the best story behind it, but it felt right at the time, and feels right today. So yeah.
I think it's a great story. You made it something that you love, that you cherish, that you care about, and we started the conversation about the water. Like, this conversation started about Hawaii and the water, and now you're talking about the whale, and I see the blue behind the whale. So that is a real connection for you.
You're right. And it's so funny how life is, right? Yeah. I mean, when I was out in Hawaii and I was able to see whales out there, went whale watching in Maui and stuff. And like, it's just so like, I've always been drawn to the ocean, always been drawn to water. So it makes sense for it to be a part of our mission for sure.
So how do people find you? Where can they find information about Lead You?
Sure. So our website is leadyouThere.com, LEAD, the letter U, THERE.com. I'm sure we'll have it up there. Really, Instagram is our main. If you want to see what we're doing on our stories and stuff, you can get a real taste of what the energy level is. It's at lead_you. Another underscore there. Just look for the whale. We always say, just Lead You, look for the whale. And you could see a lot of what we're doing and where we're at and the people and the energy we have.
Oh, yes. I got to watch something recently where you were outside freezing doing some sort of fun things.
Yeah, we're doing that. And we do this thing called Word of the Day as well, where we just kind of take a word and we try to like just focus on what that word means. And again, it's for learners of all ages. I start everyone off by saying students of the earth, because we're all students of the earth, right? So we're all learning. So let's focus on this one word: empathy, kindness, heart, whatever it might be. and it's a quick 1-minute video. But yeah, I did one during the snowstorm.
You did. Was that the one where you had the word vision? Maybe that was it. I can't remember.
Vision was another one. I always try to be near the water or by the beach. I think cold was the word I did during the snowstorm. Yeah.
Definitely. It's been cold. I totally agree with you. I just so appreciate your energy and sharing with us today. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Honestly,
Yeah.
everything you're doing, we need to interview you. We gotta turn the tables and let everybody know about your mission, everything you're doing, because it's amazing. And when you reached out, I was like, this is so cool to be part of. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And you know, this year we're having our summit, which Dawn is a part of the summit on March 24th. That's happening, the International Changemakers Forum. And then all of my guests this year get to be a speaker at the next year's forum. So I hope you'll join us in the next year's forum and be a speaker for us. Absolutely.
Put it on the calendar. Thank you.
You're welcome. One last question. I ask every guest the same last question.
Uh-oh.
What is the footprint you're creating now that you want to leave behind?
Great question. At the end of the day, I want anyone that we are making this experience for, I want them to hopefully continue to find the leader within themselves and be okay with who they are as a person and believe in themselves as a person. Whether you're a kindergartner or you're an adult, I would like you to leave knowing who you are as a person and believing in yourself as a human.
I really felt that. I'm starting to tear up. I always tear up. It's terrible.
It's a great question, and I mean that. And some, maybe our approach is high energy and a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, there's a reason for it, and it's because I want everyone to continue to identify who they are and be good with it as they continue on this floating rock, right?
Exactly. But you know what? The one thing is, I remember teachers that impacted me. I remember people who said things. Remember, you're 6 with a ton of energy. And there's going to be kids in 10 years that are 10 right now that are going to be, I remember when JD came in and he said this, and they're going to tell that to someone else. It could be their child or children or someone else that needs it. So you just never really truly understand your impact that you make in the world.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And you just inspire that kid that you're talking about 10 years from now. Maybe that experience inspires them to start their own thing and start doing their thing. Because, there's no competition in our industry. It's all right. You have an idea. You want to get in front of kids or students, go do it, because the world needs it. We all need positive, inspiring things right now. So hopefully that kid 10 years from now is like, I want to go do that, and starts their own thing, But we got the whale though. You can't take the whale.
Totally with you. There's no usage of any whales at all, But that's awesome. Thank you, JD. I so appreciate it. Come back again and give us an update.
I definitely will. Thank you so much, Jody. Appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Again, thank you to JD Wilson for being a guest this week. And I'm going to say what I always say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large step are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goal? Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.